to be an effective instrument of international policy.
Top headlines this hour. Arab Islamic leaders have warned that Israel's attack on Qatar is a hostile act that is jeopardizing peace and normalization. Meanwhile, Qatar's Prime Minister has stated that the strike on Doha is delaying de-escalation, and they vowed to continue mediation along with Egypt and the US to end the war. US President Donald Trump has warned Israel to be very careful in handling Qatar after strikes targeted Hamas leaders in Doha. He's meanwhile praised Qatar as a great ally and stated that its ruler is a wonderful person. Russian air defense systems have intercepted 6 Ukrainian drones over Belgorod region. Now, this is information according to the Russian Defense Ministry. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has stated that Ukrainian forces have advanced in the border district of northern Sumy region. Polish President Karol Nawrocki has approved NATO troop deployment under Operation Eastern Sentry, even as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has warned that Russia is testing NATO's eastern flank. The trilateral exercise Freedom Edge has commenced off Jeju Island as US, South Korea and Japan are boosting defense capabilities. Meanwhile, North Korea has condemned the drills as a reckless show of strength. North Korea's mission to the United Nations has stated that its position as a nuclear weapons state is irreversible, and it has rejected America's demands for denuclearization, branding it as outdated and provocative. A vigil has been held in Washington honoring Charlie Kirk, even as US President Donald Trump has stated that the shooting stems from left wing, confirming that investigations are underway. US President Donald Trump has stated that TikTok talks are ongoing, stressing that the outcome depends on China. He has warned that he may let the popular app die. Well, viewers, those were the headlines and our top focus. Russian air defense systems have now destroyed or intercepted 6 Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles over the Belgorod region during the night. This is information as per the Russian Defense Ministry. This all comes even as Russian security agencies have stated that Russian troops in Volchansk have advanced and strengthened their foothold on the city's left bank. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has stated that Ukrainian forces have advanced in the border districts of northern Sumy region, an area where Russian troops have been trying to establish a foothold for months. Zelenskyy was speaking in his nightly video address. He's also quoted Ukraine's top commander as saying that and claiming that Moscow's forces suffered losses in Donetsk and Kharkiv region. With us on the broadcast is Professor Georgy Toloraya. He is a professor at the Russian Academy of Science, joining us live from Moscow. Thank you so much for taking our time speaking to us on NewsX World. Fresh news coming in. The Russian Defense Ministry now confirming that 6 Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles have now been shot down over the Belgorod region. This is coming even as Donald Trump has been mooting for a trilateral for a meeting, in fact, between Putin and Zelenskyy, and of course Trump also being there. Do you think such a meeting could catalyze?
Well, we have the Ukrainian drones intruding into Russian airspace by dozens and even hundreds on some days in all the areas. Some of them are reaching Moscow region, and they're reaching also especially the oil refining facilities and oil facilities even in the north. So it's really frustrating, and it shows that there's absolutely no taste for peace talks or any intention from the Ukrainian side to stop the bloodshed. So this is nothing new. That's the way it goes, unfortunately.
All right, so I request you to stay on with us. We're tracking more information coming in. We're now learning that EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas has now slammed what she calls Russia's violation of Romanian airspace by a drone. She's called it unacceptable that the sovereignty of an EU member state has been violated. She's emphasized that this threatens regional security. She has in fact also gone on to stress upon EU's full solidarity with Romania. Kallas has also confirmed that she's been in close contact with the Romanian government. Remember earlier, Romania's defense minister had reported that radar systems detected a Russian drone as it approached Romanian airspace, and 2 F-16 fighter jets were scrambled to intercept it. However, the Romanian jets did not down the drone, as they claim it eventually turned back towards Ukraine. Now, reportedly, the drone had crossed into Romania, penetrating about 10 kilometers into Romanian territory. It remained in NATO airspace for roughly 50 minutes, I beg your pardon, according to Ukrainian President Zelenskyy. Meanwhile, in response, the Russian embassy in Romania has labeled the drone incursion as a provocation by Ukraine after Moscow's envoy was summoned by the foreign ministry over the incident. Meanwhile, Russia's ambassador to Romania, Vladimir Lipayev, has rejected Romania's accusation that Russia was responsible for the intrusion and has called it unfounded. Still with us on the broadcast is Professor Toleraya. We've seen similar such claims even being made by Poland. In fact, NATO troops are being mobilized from UK, France, Germany as well. They're calling it Operation Eastern Sentry. Volodymyr Zelenskyy is now claiming that Russia wants to expand this war, and therefore it is necessary for NATO countries to come together and secure the eastern flank of Europe. Do you think this war could protract in the future?
I think that's exactly the case where we should ask ourselves who profits from this. Zelenskyy crystal dream is to have NATO involved into his conflict with Russia. So he would do everything possible, every kind of provocation to involve NATO into hostility with Russia. First, let us look at the Romanian case. A drone came close to the border and then it came back to Ukraine. Why do you think it's Russian? Maybe it's, I don't know, North Korean or Chinese or from Mars. How do you know that it's Russian? It came from Ukraine. It got back to Ukraine. How do you know it is Russian? And then you pronounce very hasty and irresponsible statements by the top official of EC. I think it's very biased and not responsible behavior. I don't know about the Polish case, although there has been no confirmation that that has also been indeed the Russian drones. If it were, that would have been a sad mistake. But I don't think, well, it should be proven and investigated. This is the thing. This is what should be done in a responsible, by responsible statement in the such a tense situation. Not condemning somebody without any grounds and trying to raise the tension that could lead to a real war conflict. I think this is absolutely irresponsible.
One last and final question. Donald Trump, even while mooting for a trilateral meeting, he's been calling for sanctions against Russia. He's made appeals to G7 nations and nations in Europe in particular to slap steep tariffs against Russia, and particularly countries that import Russian crude oil, such as China, such as India as well. Now, we do know that Europe is not just energy hungry, it's also heavily reliant upon Russian energy. So do you think European countries in this context will heed what Trump is saying?
Well, I don't think that any amount of sanctions and any economic hardship would make Russia leave its strategic goals of doing away with the Ukrainian conflict, of ending the Ukrainian conflict on the needs or on the terms which satisfies it. So no sanctions will make this purpose any closer. So we should think why Trump is threatening Russia with sanctions and how it will help Europe. If Europe doesn't get the Russian oil, there'll be another energy crisis. Russia will survive. I don't know how Europeans will do, how they would see their standard of living decline because of these policies just on the verge of winter.
All right, sir. With that, I would like to thank you for taking out time speaking to us on NewsX World today. Meanwhile, viewers, we're shifting our focus towards the United States of America. We're now learning that US President Donald Trump has warned that left-leaning groups will be investigated after the shooting of Charlie Kirk. He stated that the problem is on the left. Trump has emphasized that his administration will be announcing the groups that it plans to probe. Listen in.
Well, the problem is on the left. If you look at the problem is on the left. It's not on the right, like some people like to say on the right. The problem we have is on the left. And when you look at the agitators, you look at the scum that speaks so badly of our country, the American flag burnings all over the place, that's the left, that's not the right. No, we haven't, but we are looking at names. We don't like that, that's not right. We wouldn't celebrate if something happened to this, and we don't. These are sick people. These are really deranged people.
Trump has also stated that some groups are already under investigation. Meanwhile, Utah Governor Spencer Cox has stated that Kirk's shooter, who had earlier been identified as Tyler Robinson, is not cooperating with the authorities. Now, ahead of Kirk's funeral, lawmakers and senior officials from the Trump administration have gathered at the Kennedy Center in Washington for prayer service and candlelight vigil to pay their tribute. Some of those who have honored Kirk at the Kennedy Center include U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson, U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard. Take a look.
Charlie had such faith and such belief, and he wanted to share that truth with others. And what he was trying to do is pull people back from the abyss, not just to save a country, but to save souls. That's what Charlie Kirk was about. And that will resonate. It goes far beyond him. His legacy is immeasurable. I used to be a lawyer. I defended free speech and religious freedom and all that in the courts. And we talked a lot about advancing and preserving the free marketplace of ideas. I think Charlie Kirk offered more productive content, the free marketplace of ideas, than anyone in his generation and arguably in the last 100 years of U.S. history.
Any figure in our country led the resistance that has restored freedom of speech to this country. And he built this movement, which is going to make sure that that never, ever happens again.
Charlie was killed on September 10th. On September 11th, we observed the 24th anniversary of the Islamist terrorist attack on our country 24 years ago. Now, these events have something in common. They were both carried out by those who hold on to ideologies that cannot stand up to scrutiny and challenge, so they feel that their only recourse is to commit an act of violence to silence those who oppose them, and to intimidate and terrorize others into silence. This is the definition of terrorism.
President Trump's win in November was fueled in no small part by the tireless work of Charlie, the Turning Point organization that he built from scratch out of a garage, the true essence of the American dream, and the MAGA movement that he helped so many young people join.
Meanwhile, more than $6 million have been raised to support Charlie Kirk's families. Now, these donations have come from two fundraisers, one organized by U.S. journalist Tucker Carlson, and the other by radio host Glenn Beck. A separate fundraiser by Kirk's Turning Action Company has also contributed to the funds raised. Well, viewers, shifting our focus towards some breaking updates coming in. Spain's foreign and economy ministers are meeting with U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent and Trade Representative Jamieson Greer in Madrid today to discuss bilateral trade and economic cooperation. The talks are focused on strengthening trade relations, investment opportunities, and strategies to address global economic challenges. The meeting has been held as both the U.S. officials were in town for a round of talks with Chinese counterparts to discuss tariffs and the TikTok deal. In fact, as far as U.S. and China are concerned, U.S. and the Trump administration in particular has been pushing for either the sale or divestment of TikTok from its Chinese parent company, ByteDance, and a federal court had upheld his decision as well, and the ball is now in China's court. Shifting focus to more updates coming in, US President Donald Trump has reacted to the brutal beheading of Chandra Nagamalaya in Dallas in Texas. Now, Trump has stated that the accused, Yordanis Cobos Martinez, was an illegal immigrant from Cuba and he will be charged with first-degree murder and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Now, the incident stemmed from a dispute over a faulty washing machine at Nagamalaya's motel. Now, video footage of the incident has been circulating on social media showcasing Martinez attacking Nagamalaya with a machete despite intervention by his wife and son. Nagamalaya was attacked, in fact, 55 times with this machete till he was beheaded in front of his family. That is not all. The accused also went ahead and then kicked his head like a football before dumping it. Trump, meanwhile, has criticized the current administration for allegedly allowing prior administration, I beg your pardon, for allowing dangerous illegal immigrants into the country. The US president has also promised to take tough action against criminal illegal immigrants and has praised his administration's efforts to make America safe again. With us on the broadcast is Mr. Gautam Mukherjee. He's a senior journalist joining us live from New Delhi. Thank you so much for taking our time speaking to us on NewsX World. This shocking incident had come to light 4 days ago. Spine-chilling video circulating on social media. A lot of people, whether diaspora Indians or Indians over here, were aghast with the fact that an innocent man was beheaded in front of his family. We do know that Charlie Kirk was killed around the same time, and there was a lot of reportage in American media, but this particular tragedy was ignored, and now Donald Trump has finally highlighted it. Do you think it is time that American media at large also focuses on this?
Well, without a doubt, the American media should focus on it. This is now something of a disease in America where immigrants are either being unruly and having to be caught by the authorities, the police, the commandos, the soldiers, or they are fighting amongst themselves, refusing deportation. Now, in this man's case, he's from Cuba. He's got a long history sheet. Cuba refused to take him. He was waiting to be deported finally. How he found employment in this motel is, hard to tell. And then he does this ghastly thing, which as a hardened criminal may not mean much to him, but the victim and his family have been badly done by. They can't crack down hard enough on all these immigrants, and particularly the ones with criminal antecedents.
Indeed, and speaking of criminal tendencies in this particular case, Trump has even highlighted that the criminal in question is a history sheeter with a past so horrible that even while there were efforts made to deport him back to Cuba, Cuba in fact refused to even accept him. How do you view now the US president coming out and assuring that he will be charged with first-degree murder and prosecuted to the fullest extent of law?
Yes, well, now that he's committed a public murder with a lot of publicity given to it, he will be given the death penalty. And there is no question of deporting him. He will be jailed and then presumably given the death penalty right there in America. But he is just a symptom. There are several others. There are gang wars. There are example. They are often unemployed or underemployed. They are thieving and holding people up. They're armed and dangerous. So it is a very big problem in the United States.
All right, so with that, I would like to thank you for taking out time, sitting with us on NewsX World, sharing your perspective on this development. Meanwhile, viewers, we're shifting our focus to East Asia. We're now learning that North Korea has issued a condemnation of the United States for demanding its denuclearization. The statement has stated that North Korea's status as a nuclear armed state is permanently enshrined in its law and it is irreversible. North Korea's UN mission has stated that the United States' branding of its nuclear weapons as illegal is a provocation. The statement has also emphasized that the nuclear watchdog IAEA has no moral authority to interfere in the internal affairs of a state that is not part of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Now, this statement follows North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's visit to weapons facilities where he stressed on increasing the country's nuclear arsenal as well. With us on the broadcast is Professor Stephen Nagy from the International Christian University, joining us from Tokyo. Thank you so much for taking our time speaking to us on NewsX World. Interesting statements coming in even as trilateral drills are taking place between South Korea, US and Japan off Jeju Island. We had in fact seen when bilateral military exercises between the US and South Korea was taking place, Ulchi Shield. In that instance as well, North Korea had made these rather strong statements and threatening to use its nuclear arsenal then as well and expand its nuclear arsenal, I beg your pardon, then as well. What do you make of North Korea now doubling down? We did see when the South Korean president had met Donald Trump at the White House, Trump had in fact expressed his inclination to meeting Kim Jong-un once again. Where do you see tensions in the Korean Peninsula headed to next?
I think we're going to see continuity in terms of tensions between North and South, and the North Korea's continued investment in its weapons of mass destruction, and that includes a variety of different delivery systems, short, mid, and long-term, long-range missile systems. North Korea has invested not only a decade, but decades in these kinds of weapon systems that are meant to protect its regime. There really isn't a negotiation destination from the North Korean side. And in that sense, whatever the Trump administration does offer North Korea, I just don't think it can offer anything that will secure the regime in the way that weapons of mass destruction has done.
Indeed, sir, I request you to stay on with us. We're tracking further updates. We're now learning that South Korea's Trade Ministry has stated that the country's top trade envoy, Yoon Han-kyu, is heading to the United States for follow-up tariff negotiations. South Korea is struggling to conclude trade negotiations with the United States as the talks have been delayed due to the terms outlined by the US side being quote-unquote unacceptable to the South Koreans, particularly because of the implications for the foreign exchange market. Now, South Korea's finance ministry has stated that it is discussing various measures to minimize any impact on the onshore currency market. This trip comes after its industries minister Kim Jung-kwon recently returned from Washington, where he held talks with US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Still with us on the broadcast is Professor Stephen Nagy. Where do you see the South Korean-US equation heading to next as far as the economic sphere is concerned? We do know there were a lot of South Korean companies that have promised to invest in the American markets. Meanwhile, the US is concerned, especially under Trump administration, it's concerned about its own interests. It's putting America first. And we've recently seen the detentions that have taken place at a Hyundai facility. And when Trump reacted to that, he had stated that he wants these companies to not just bring labor, often cheap labor, but those who have expertise from their own countries, but also train the Americans.
Well, thank you very much. We've seen this show before in terms of the Japan-US trade negotiations that went back and forth really over months, and it still hasn't been finalized. And I think South Korea is facing the same kinds of challenges in terms of how to get the best deal possible with a transactional White House, and whether this kind of transactional diplomacy will last beyond Mr. Trump. In that sense, the South Korea is trying to find ways to invest in the United States, make sure that investments in the United States are related to technology, related to infrastructure connectivity, and related to comparative advantage of South Korea. At the same time, are political wins for the Trump administration. This will continue to be the case. I do expect that the South Koreans will be successful. They're going to follow the model of the Japanese. But at the same time, I think they're going to try and continue to diversify and strengthen their relationship with Europe, with India, with Japan and others, so that they have more strategic autonomy. Last, and I think importantly, when we're thinking about Seoul's position on trade, is that they're very much interested in locking in the relationship with the United States. And that means not only through trade, but increasing its burden sharing in terms of the alliance and trilateral cooperation with Japan, South Korea, and the United States. South Korea, like other countries in the region, really need to anchor the United States in the region if they're going to be successful in navigating China's continued rise, its assertive behavior in the region, and the size of its economy. There's no end formula that doesn't include the United States unless South Korea and others are interested in a deferential relationship with Beijing.
All right, so with that, I would like to thank you for taking our time speaking to us on NewsX World. Meanwhile, shifting focus to more news and updates coming in, we're now learning that South Korea's defense ministry has announced that the United States, South Korea and Japan have commenced a joint air and naval exercise off South Korea's Jeju Island. Its ministry has called it their most advanced trilateral military drill to date. The exercise, named Freedom Edge, will run through Friday and is aimed at boosting cooperation across air, sea and the cyber domain in response to North Korea's growing nuclear and missile threats. Listen in to what South Korean Joint Chief of Staff had to say.
오늘부터 19일까지 고도화되는 북 핵미사일 위협에 대한 억제, 대응 능력 강화를 위해 연례적으로
Meanwhile, viewers, shifting focus away from South Korea towards news coming in from the Philippines. A massive fire has ripped through shanty homes in Tondo, Manila, displacing over 1,000 families. The blaze started around 8 p.m. local time and spread rapidly through densely packed residences. Drone footage clearly shows fire trucks and volunteers battling the flames through the night. In fact, the Bureau of Fire Protection stated that the flames were under control and have now been fully extinguished. More than 1,100 families have been temporarily housed in local schools as relief efforts are underway. Fortunately, no fatalities have been reported. The Philippines has a history of such incidents, with a recent apartment fire in Manila's Chinatown killing 11 people. Meanwhile, families, of course, are grappling with the loss of their homes. You can clearly see the extent of the fire, the smoke billowing towards the air on your screens, and families are now pleading for help after thousands have been displaced. Remember, 1,100 families have been displaced as a consequence of these fires. Families are now stating that they have nothing left at all. Well, viewers, this is all the time we have for at the moment. More news and updates on the other side. Stay tuned on NewsX World.